Hi everyone, it's Haley. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the archetypal themes, and then also get some tarot cards for the upcoming Taurus new moon, which is going to come through on, I think it's the 19th of May. Let me double check that. Yes, the 19th of May. And so the sun and the moon, as with all new moons, are at the exact same degree of the exact same sign. So in this case, they're both going to be at 28 degrees of Taurus. And in this chart, we have a huge pileup of planets, a huge stellium in the sign of Taurus, and in the 10th house in this case, because we have a Leo rising chart. So the chart ruler is going to be the sun, which is again conjunct to the moon, 28 degrees Taurus, and all of the planets in Taurus at the time of this lunation are Jupiter, which has just entered the sign. It's at 0 degrees of Taurus. We have the north node of the moon. We have the midheaven, which is the highest point in the chart, of course, because this is a 10th house stellium. Sometimes the midheaven's in the 9th house, but that's kind of technical. We also have Mercury. We also have Uranus, and then the sun and the moon, the lunation. So that's a huge pileup in the sign of Taurus, and kind of the archetype of the Taurus new moon as it is could be kind of said to be kind of like the zenith, the prototype of when you think of spring, when you think of planting new seeds, a lot of kind of agrarian themes of what we tend to, what we nourish and what we want to grow in the next season ahead in the summer, and all of these themes. And when I was looking at some of the aspects that are being made to and from this lunation, a lot of themes around resources, specifically themes around money, agriculture, excess, kind of hoarding, in addition to greed, things like that kind of came up. And so this chart has a huge predominance of water and earth energy. So kind of these kind of agrarian themes, again, kind of this like back to the earth, wanting to be closer to nature, wanting to kind of surround ourselves with life, kind of like putting plants around the house, kind of just being immersed in nature more often might be kind of an urge or something that you notice around this time. Again, Neptune and Mars in water signs, Mars is in Cancer, Neptune is in Pisces, are forming sextiles, so kind of flowing beneficial aspects to this lunation, kind of pointing to, again, like a very fertile time, a kind of time of peak growth potentially, because this stellium is in the 10th house, the highest point in the chart, kind of peak career opportunities if you're a Leo rising, native, or just kind of wherever Taurus is in your chart. Really look to that area as kind of this area of this huge boom kind of cycle where there's a lot going on, a lot growing there, and it's probably pretty obvious at this point that like what is very much thriving. Again, this kind of peak growth or bumper crop energy, we could be kind of seeing stuff around, I don't know, agriculture, agribusiness, things like crops just either doing really well, or, and I see more of like a positive aspect to this, just like a huge excess where things are growing really, really well. And why I said this is because Taurus, which again has just entered the sign, or Jupiter has just entered the sign of Taurus, is conjunct the north node of the moon, which both of those, the north node isn't really a planetary body, it's a point that has to do with eclipses, but Jupiter and the north node kind of have this kind of signature around expansion and growth, but with Jupiter and the north node, it can be a little bit excessive. And so that's why I kind of look at specifically themes that we're talking about, like the redistribution of wealth, kind of some journalistic exposés coming out around the time of this new moon, kind of looking at who are these people who are kind of holding this unjust or unequitable amount of wealth, and the ways that that is kind of stale or representing some older, really old paradigms of kind of how we, narratives that we have around what it means to work hard and to have a lot, and meritocracy and things like that, especially because Pluto, which is at 0 degrees of Aquarius in the 7th house in this chart, is forming an exact square to Jupiter. So kind of this like kind of nefarious, like huge proportions of wealth that are just kind of like maybe generational, or just kind of and fixed signs, very solidified systems of wealth, in the call to redistribute that, with Pluto at that kind of revolutionary 0 degrees of Aquarius. So kind of themes around, again, redistributing. Pluto is also trining this lunation, kind of empowering it to kind of sort of upend some of these unjust systems of sharing or lack thereof. So kind of, again, pooling resources, mutual aid, looking for alternatives so that we can kind of share within more local communities and keep resources circulating more freely is a theme that I saw. And then also this lunation is approaching a square to the planet Saturn. So kind of, again, kind of illuminating in this way the Saturnian kind of like themes around restriction or not having enough, and just kind of saying, well, maybe we could bring some more light to this and kind of see the ways that doesn't have to be this way, in some ways that it could be different, especially because the sun and the moon are at that the last degrees of Taurus, and are going into Gemini, kind of starting to have those ideas start flowing in about how we could organize things to be different and work for more people more of the time. So kind of looking for new kind of solutions, new modes of distribution, and kind of this theme around kind of like some elements of how like the hard reality of life is kind of a fantasy in some ways, because it's kind of, if enough people agree it, I'm going to start shuffling the tarot. Sure, we could say it's reality and it's fixed and you can point to it and say, look, it's real, it's how things are, but it's kind of, there is some element of construction to that. Okay, so let's see. What themes can we expect around this Taurus new moon? Okay, I'm gonna get maybe 5-ish. What themes can we expect around this Taurus new moon? What themes can we expect in our personal lives and in the collective? What themes are wanting to arise around this Taurus new moon? Oops. Okay. Get one more card. What themes are wanting to emerge? Okay, perfect. Okay, interesting. So, okay, I'm immediately being drawn to the Judgment card in reverse. And I feel like this kind of speaks to this kind of Pluto, Jupiter, people acquiring huge amounts of wealth through nefarious, unjust means, and kind of how in the Judgment card, you kind of see this kind of angel figure calling people up from their tombs. Kind of, you could perceive this as a little bit dogmatic or kind of biblical imagery, but kind of I think the underlying kind of theme here is we can expect in some way, maybe not immediately, but things kind of come around and there is some sort of consequence to our actions, even if it isn't this kind of like dogmatic fear-based, like you're going to be judged one day. There is a ripple effect. And with these individuals who have huge amounts of wealth and kind of seeing the ways that a lot of people, or a few people have a lot and a lot of people have very little. But in the reverse, kind of feeling like some unjust sense around this, or like someone's evading something, and that kind of triggering immediately the Trump, issue, lawsuit, is coming to mind. But I'm sure like lots of other individuals have just kind of like clearly egregious things, but there's this Pluto Jupiter aspect feels like it's kind of shielding someone from some sort of consequence that maybe they're deserving of. Let's see. Okay. So immediately there seems to be a lot of exhaustion present around this. So this could be kind of confusing for a lot of these signs around like, oh, it's spring, there's lots of things growing, but also there's this energy of like burnout and exhaustion with the 10 of Wands, where this person is just kind of really putting their back into this huge task. The Hanged Man, which can be kind of just in the need to have like a breather, a more restorative time to kind of get your bearings after kind of like a liminal, strange, kind of suspended time. And then also with is this the 8? Yes, the 8 of Pentacles. I always get the 7 and the 8 confused for some reason. The 8 of Pentacles reversed, kind of this feeling of like, this is the prototypical like kind of Marxian alienation from one's labor. So themes around like, who am I working for? How is it actually impacting me or benefiting my life? And who, let's see. Yeah, this kind of like disillusionment around what am I working for and what am I working towards with the, see, there's a little bit of a glare there. The 10 of Cups reversed. Kind of this like popping a bubble moment on like an American dream or a fantasy around working hard and how that will kind of postponing happiness later for just like really hard work, putting one's head down in the moment. With Judgment, that's interesting. So I'm gonna get a little clarification because I pulled the Ace of Swords in reverse. And I'm not quite sure where to go with this. Let's check in. Can we get a little clarification on the Ace of Swords in reverse? How is this playing out in the Taurus new moon? Get a little clarification. Okay. Wow, okay. So we have the 6 of Cups upright, and again, the Ace of Swords reversed. Okay, so I've never read this card in this way before. Normally, I kind of look at it, and it's kind of this nostalgic, kind of like romanticized image of a past that maybe never existed, kind of like looking to childhood for and mining something there to kind of bring into the present and kind of use to explain current reality. But just the fact that this figure is holding out this cup with this flower to this other little figure, which is so cute. What I said earlier about mutual aid is really coming in pretty strongly. Let's see. Yeah, so like turning something on its head, kind of like this logical breakthrough sort of energy as we move into Gemini season where we start questioning things. But also with the Hanged Man, like a lot of confusion, but like the confusion necessitates us to think more deeply about these issues around like the very practical bases of our lives, like how we grow food, how we work, how we have enough money to meet our needs, why things are structured the way that they are, and kind of there is this element of kind of like getting back to nature. Let's just like build a commune and kind of organize things in a more local way, but also maybe it is a little bit informed by some sort of fantasy around if we just opt out, then things will cease to impact us or impact other people. And so kind of the necessity of kind of thinking in the long term around like what do we stand for, what is and isn't okay, and like what we have to kind of think in the long term, especially with this fixed earth energy of Taurus, what's going to sustain us in the long run, and is the current mode of organizing tasks and organizing a society, that's such a vague word, but organizing our social arrangements, it's clearly not working, which isn't a very hot take, and it doesn't take an astrologer to say that, but yeah, but it also feels like a very creative, like momentous time where there's a lot of momentum behind it to kind of it's cliche, but you know, plant those seeds. I feel like a broken record over here, but yeah, just let me know in the comments what themes you're noticing around the Taurus new moon in general, if anything has resonated, or if it's not, let me know in the comments below. Also, my books are open for the month of May. So if you'd like to book a natal chart reading with me, you can reach out at the email Project Venus Rising, all lower caps, all one word, at gmail.com. That's will be listed down in the description box below, so you can see that written out and just kind of hit me up just with a date time that works for you, and we'll try to figure it out if you'd like to know more about your natal chart. So it was great unpacking the Taurus new moon with you. I'm super curious to see what is bubbling up around this time. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day.